How do you see India as a cruise destination since you have had many experiences in India?
Interesting. It would be the answer.
I like the word.
Incredible.
Not incredible, it's interesting.
No, I mean, first of all, there's huge potential in India. And I see India as a potential for a source market, even greater than a destination. Yeah. Just do the maths, 1.3 billion people. So let's say you can wipe out 400 million and will not have enough to buy.
Yeah.
So another 300 million maybe egging towards that,
yeah.
but they don't have enough either. Yeah. Then you've got only 600 million, which is more than the US. So from that 600 million, 300 million needs a microloan to go on a cruise, to be honest. A microloan or some sort of financial support to get on the loan. And maybe that's not easy to get now. So that leaves us with 300 million. But 300 million,
that's a big number.
You know, what's America? 340 million? And only 11, there are about 33 million people cruise. So if you've got a source market, let's half the 300 million, say you've got 150 million really can cruise, you know, they can cruise tomorrow.
Yeah.
150 million is a huge market.
True.
So if we get the cruise buzz going in India, then that can work, you know, worldwide. And then the future of cruising, you know, and the source market of cruising could be Asia. Because from the 33 million, about half of that is North American at the moment. So we need Indians to cruise and we need to get the bug. So I helped from an advisory capacity, the first cruise line that opened domestically, which is Jalesh Cruises.
Jalesh Cruises, yeah.
I was there at the beginning.
Well. Yeah. Karnika was the name.
Karnika, yes. We were the agents and we were helping, and I was also doing the shore excursions, the ground handling. And, you know, operationally it was a success, but the passenger numbers were not high enough to sustain it. And there, you know, there was a lot of learning curves internally with Jalesh, and they've gone ahead now with Cordiella, which is working.
Yeah.
You know, it's working, and now they've got a plan for more ships.
Okay.
And the CEO Jürgen Bailon, he knows what he's doing. He's a great man, and I think that this will succeed, and others will enter that market.
Follow, yeah.
And as a destination for international cruising, it's complex.
Really?
Yes. It's the port costs themselves are okay, but you have this tax on consumables, which is very high. You know, it's a huge barrier to cruising. And by the time you've paid all of that, and it's a self-assessment, it's difficult for cruise lines to break even. Yeah, even break even
in Indian coasts.
Yeah, when they call it Indian coast. Well, Indian coastal cruising, but even international cruising, difficult to break even. But domestic cruising, and that's another thing. There's a huge set of things you have to do to convert the ship from international to domestic cruising, which involves customs, and there's a lot of cost that's invoked by that. And the casino tax, for example, is 28%, you know, and then you've got all these taxes and costs that makes it very, very difficult. And it's not just the tax and the costs themselves, it's the complexity of managing it. You know, that itself is costly, you know. So I had made suggestions on the high-level advisory committee, which I'm on, to simplify it, going back to my Einstein thoughts, you know, simple to complicate, complicated to simplify. So let's simplify, and let's just put one tax for all consumables and customs, just one tax per passenger. And then the cruise lines know what that is, and then they can factor it into the cost of the ticket.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But that's not been done and not been listened to, and the Customs Authority and Finance Ministry have gone ahead with these taxes, and they still insisting on these conversion taxes and the tax on consumables, which makes it really, really difficult for cruise lines to operate. And the longer that stays, I worry how we can get
It's not gonna help,
Indian cruising off the ground, because the amount of passengers we're getting on board ships is minute. There's one Cordiella ship.
True.
Resort World Cruises were going in there, but they pulled out because of the tax. It's difficult to manage.
Difficult to survive, yeah.
They really wanted to go because they see the wonderful potential of India.
Yeah.
And India and the ports are improving. We have a new cruise terminal in Mumbai, which is improving. But on the other side, they're charging much more money for that. So again, it's like another tax.
Yeah.
So all these are adding up and becomes very difficult. Goa is building a cruise terminal, which is very encouraging. And they have a domestic and an international terminal. We're seeing Vizag has a new terminal.
Vizag, yeah.
So, these things are happening. Infrastructural changes are positive. But if we're paying all these taxes, how can you pay also for increase of cost in the terminal? So it's
Doesn't
a fallacy
make
of
sense, yeah.
statistics. It's very difficult to operate a cruise because you can't charge that much for cruising in India. So I think that is what's holding India back, and I'm worried about the future of that. I do think it will sort itself out in time, but federal intervention is required, but with the finance ministry, because that's the problem. I believe the ports have a very rationalised price at the moment, although the terminal price is high.
Yeah.
So
You heard about this cruise ship called Angria? I don't know whether you were the agents of Angria in Goa or not.
no, I know
it was a
I know
small
the
cruise ship.
Yes, I know this.
They bought it from Japan,
Yes,
and they were running between Mumbai and Goa.
yes.
This was the first cruise ship before Jalesh.
Yes, I was aware it was a casino.
Yeah, it's a small one,
Yes,
a small
yes.
cruise ship from Japan.
Yes.
They could survive.
No. And that's a small one. Imagine a large one. And you've got to fill it each week, And because, as I told you, it works at $150 a day. I mean, Jalesh, Cordiella, it was
That's
in the discovery sector.
Yeah.
So it's price sensitive.
Yeah.
And it's not so easy. And the government needs to do more to promote. But the good thing is, positively, the infrastructure of India is getting better. Look at Mumbai. Look at the new coastal road.
Yeah.
Look at all the different things that are happening in India. I went back to Mumbai recently. I was there in January, and it took me 45 minutes to get from the airport to Marine Drive, which was 2 hours at one point.
Yeah, true. It has reduced.
45 minutes. I was shocked. And we were under a tunnel, and
Correct.
and we had this beautiful coastal road going around. So
Worldly Sea Link. Yeah.
and the terminal is going to be great in Mumbai. We need to rationalise the pricing a little bit, but I think that will be fine. But these taxes, GST, and also they charge GST on the ticket sales as well. So it's on every corner you're paying this GST, on the fuel for consumption, every Coca-Cola, even when it's sailing in international waters, it's considered coastal cruising. So
you're talking about the international cruises sailing in Indian coast also paying those taxes?
yes, they still pay the tax on consumables. And it's huge, and even when they're sailing in international waters, it's not considered because you're going from one Indian port to the other. So you have to pay. Self-declaration, but as I said, simplify it, make one rational charge per guest, let the cruise lines factor that into the ticket price, and it might work. But there's a limit to how much the guests will pay for a cruise.
True.
So, and that limit is, the balance is not there. The cost of operation to do what
So
they'll pay
you're
for
saying
a
this is
cruise.
only in India, not in the other countries around the world?
There's only 2 countries in the world that do tax on consumables, to my knowledge, and that's Brazil and India.
That's it.
Yeah, and Brazil the cruising would have exploded if they didn't have that. But but it's a lot less complex than India. It's complex, but even less than India, because in India it's very complex to do the whole thing. They're going to digitalize it, which is a good thing. But
Complex is
some
complex.
cruise lines are hiring people just to calculate it.
Oh my God.
If to do it properly. And cruise lines are they're by the book. They want to do it properly.
True.
But it's not possible to. After all, cruising is a business, right? And if you want to do the business, you have to generate an income of some sort.
True.
Many cruise ships already come to the port at break even or a loss, and then they rely on making the money on board to make the profit. But if you're making the money on board and you're paying the tax
You're
on
paying the taxes
consumables as
again.
well, there's no way to make a profit. So they will try to, if you put India on a world cruise, it will work out because you make money on the rest and all that bit. But regular cruising, very difficult.
Very difficult.
My hat's off to Cordiella for keeping it going.
Surviving.
Because, they're doing some job and they're managing to meet ends. And I have great hope, because if we can change these taxes and get some exemptions or simplify and rationalize, we can make a huge boom of cruising in India. And the thing about cruising, it will bring more business to India.
For sure.
Because when an international ship goes to a port, 80% of the guests on board,
They go out, yeah.
No, 80% only buy this cruise to sample destinations they aim to return to for a land-based vacation.
True. They like it so much, yeah.
So if the experience is good, they will come back. 50% of them fully intend to come back. So it's like a world travel market every time we have a cruise ship call.
True.
And you could generate, it'd be a catalyst for generating all this tourism in the future to the destination. So if India understood how to capitalize on cruising, it would, highly benefit many other tourism streams of business, from adventure to discovery to medical tourism to. And it would also help real estate if you were allowed to buy real estate. It could help buying a business in India, doing business in India, because it's all about
opportunity
awareness.
is huge. Yeah.
So
You just
but
have
at
to
the
realize,
moment we're losing because the amount of calls you have is insignificant to what it should be.
Correct.
And that's a shame. That's a real shame to see.
I hope this podcast reaches to right people in government.
May it go viral in India,
maybe
please.
they should
And I will be the first, because I love India.
Yeah.
And I do think India is incredible, by the way, in more ways than one. And I love India, and I've lived in India. So I hope that the right people here, because this is
It's very important.
such potential that is completely untapped.
Yeah.
And if you have a knife in your arm, you can take away the bleeding. You can stop the pain, but you still have a knife in your arm. And the knife in your arm here is the taxes that's applied by the Ministry of Finance. It's too much.